Woo!
Excellent. I'm glad to have you here. My students have seen you at work, but could you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your craft.
Totally. I'm SnubbyJ. I play this homemade PVC pipe instrument that I call the rimba tubes. It's inspired by the Blue Man Group, but mine is set up like a piano. So I can take songs I grew up playing on the piano and put it onto that thing.
Awesome. And you came up with the name Rimba Tubes, and this is your thing.
I did. I remember freshman year after my first video went viral, there was a lot of like talk of like, oh, that's just not an interesting name. So I spent a whole drive home from California to Oregon brainstorming like hundreds of ideas, and I landed on Rimba Tubes.
Awesome. Very cool. We were just talking, actually my students were having a test today, where it is on here. We're just talking about resonance in air columns, my physics class, and this is what led us to you. How aware of the physics behind resonance in air columns were you prior to building your first PVC instrument?
Not at all. And I remember I was I had physics, I guess, senior year of high school. And I remember asking my professor, I was like, oh, is there going to be a component about this? And he's like, no, but this is what it would look like. So I was definitely unaware when I was going into it, but I've definitely picked up on more knowledge. I'm still just more of an artist type in relation to you. I'm certain.
But you use it in a way, and you understand it in certain ways. And
yes,
I think it was in your TED talk that you were talking about shaving off just like little bits of it, the tube, to get it just perfect. Were you
exactly
like a tuning app or something like that, or a tuner at that point?
Initially, I did not. I was using my ear and using a piano on the side and doing that. And then I remember getting ready for like my first show with a band, and I was like, "Oh, this doesn't sound good." So I got it into the auditorium that I was going to be playing in and tuned it in there, and that was a life changer to have the chromatic tuner at that point.
Excellent, very cool.
Yeah.
See my next one here. We looked at the difference between open and closed column resonance. I mean.
Yes.
I'm aware of the boom whackers, like the closed versus open there, and with that lid. From what I can tell, it looks like I've only ever seen your instruments as open columns or pipes.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a reason that you haven't used any or many closed columns? Maybe it changes the quality, maybe the volume's different, or maybe it's just you feel like it's a stylistic difference?
Well, first I want to throw a question back to you. I just learned about this a couple of years ago, and I want to verify with a professional. Is it octavizes it exactly, right? Like putting a cap on it makes it exactly an octave lower. So I have not used that method at all myself. There's like the two ends of it, right? So you cap the end. There's some people that do that to be able to lessen the amount of pipes that they tote around with their instrument. But I've seen a variety of people do it on the top, where it's like the cap is like you strike that end. So like I've just never been a fan of that sound quality, because I think there's some successful, like, you know, there's a guy, Zero Electro Drum, that I've collaborated with, that he has like tape across the tops. Obviously, like Tubulums, like the Blue Man Group, and some friends like the Jerry Mobile, he's got like a cardboard slice and then tape, so then you get like a more robust sound. But I've even seen people with like the plastic caps and then like a marimba mallet, so it's like a soft strike, but then the head there. I've never been a fan of that quality of sound, because it's already so staccato that it just makes sense to have more of that openness, to have as much resonance as possible.
It really does change the quality a little bit. Like when I was telling my students that like this one's a C and this with a cap on it, which is half the length, is a C, they're different. Like this one versus it's a different.
It's more swallowed.
Yeah, and I can understand why. And maybe with the PVC, maybe there are ways you can overcome that. But I feel you. Like I can understand why that might be, for a uniform instrument, you don't want some things to be a little different, unless you need like almost you need a double low. If you need a
right, yeah.
You just can't take an extra.
I've contemplated that for my like transportable set, to be able to take that abroad and have less, like, you know, tens of feet less. That would be a huge difference. But
right,
I the most I've done is used it like in a kid's workshop, like a school workshop, where I'll let the students go find the end of the pipe and be like, what happens if you cover that and let it go? Like, go ahead and make your own beat with it. It's kind of fun in that way. But otherwise it's just, I'm not like, it's so much coordination too, to like cap it and like let it go, that I don't use that element at all in my show.
No, I don't blame you. We in Kennett Square, Pennsylvania, we're right by Longwood Gardens, which has a legendary pipe organ that they have a historical room with it. And I mean, the back room behind that, I mean, they need a huge room to handle.
Oh, I'm sure.
For all those. So I don't blame you. Like to not go that low, to not worry about all the excessive length. especially with a portable, something
Yeah.
portable.
Do they cap any for those organs? Have they ever capped that? Has that been an experiment in the past?
I'm not aware of them capping any of that, but they just go raw length. Like
Yeah.
Longwood's all about like spare no expense. So they're just going to extra
Go all out.
another 16 feet and see what happens.
Because that's a design element for me, is like the, be able to either fit it in a car or fit it in suitcases. Those are like factors to consider when I'm designing the instruments.
Seriously. Very cool. Okay. Question here says, I read that you saw reference some length equations when you were building your first set of tubes. I think it was already referenced about somewhat, but then being a bit more trial and error due to the difficulty in factoring in the elbow joints. Do you have it more nailed down for what exact lengths are necessary to achieve various notes to make it easier for you to like take with you, put in a suitcase and put back up, repair, replace, create?
Yes and no. It's obviously like I have a more familiarity of, oh, I need just like a tiny sliver off versus a tiny sliver off. We're talking about like I would usually do this with my dad, and I'll joke. I'm like, okay, so it's between we're so tactile with our process. So like the lettering on, we use ABS pipe instead of PVC. Like it'll say ABS pipe, manufacturer brand, the numbers, and like there'll be like a little gap between the lettering and like the pipe, and I'll give him specifics, not based on the length, but like where it looks like it should be. And I feel like I have an intrinsic sense of where that cut needs to be, but it's still very much trial and error. The last PVC instrument we built was in India. I got flown out for some trade shows over there, and to be over there where we were working in a factory that was like hot and sweaty and all this stuff. When we moved into the actual trade center, then that the not only the acoustics were different, but the temperature made a huge different factor. And that's where I'm always like, you're absolutely welcome to use these lengths to get yourself in the ballpark, but ultimately, if you're treating it as a musical instrument, you need to be able to listen to it and really refine the notes from there. And that's where it's like a cool balance of being able to say it's like part science and nerdy, and then part also this like artistic entity that you want to be able to like share and have the emotions of.
Yeah. And like musicians know, like you said, the temperature makes a difference. The humidity makes a difference. The speed of sound changes. The physics of it changes. That's really cool. I hadn't thought about that.
It's so drastic. Yeah. And just to be over there where I was trying some new bends and curves, and I think, again, you probably know better, but I imagine where the placement of that curve is makes a huge difference for the resonance. So it's not necessarily the note name itself. Like it's still going to be 440 hertz, but it's like where you put that curve could help it or hinder it. And that's it's still trial and error for me for that reason. There's successes and there's always little failures along the way.
I love it. That's awesome. Now here's something I don't know. I had this here for a separate reason. I don't know the difference. Okay, that one does say, no, shoot, that says PW. No, it says PCV pipe on it. What is it? What is ABS pipe? I know ABS is analog brakes. What is ABS pipe?
Oh, I actually forget the acronyms breakdown. But PVC is, polyvinyl chloride. It's just another form. It's known as the black underground version of PVC pipe. I think it was less expensive, and they have more of the elbows available at Home Depot and Lowe's when we were purchasing that. So we just stuck with it. It also doesn't have a finish, so I think it helps with retaining the spray paint color better. Nice. I know there's a lot of people that are like, I built my PVC instrument, I want to spray paint it, but it's like not going to work. And I'm like, sorry, don't know what to tell you. I've never had that experience. No advice there.
I just checked. Hold on.
Yep.
Acrylonitrile, butadiene, styrene.
That's why I don't remember it. Yep.
Polyvinyl chloride's a bit easier, but
and why I often call it a PVC instrument, just because that's more of a recognizable name that is associated with plumbing pipe. I just try my best to make it as accessible as possible for people.
No, that makes, if you were calling it an ABS instrument, you're gonna lose people.
I was like my abs instrument. It's kind of a funny, yeah. Excellent. It was a thought initially. Yeah.
Very cool, wonderful, thank you. Okay, but the official question here before we get our quick lightning round. You are a fantastic performer. Your skills to America's Got Talent, Ellen Show, TED Talks, tons of venues. Throughout your years of performing, can you think of any instances at all where your knowledge of basic physics or any physics at all helped you problem solve in some capacity?
It's mostly like we kind of started to touch about it, like the design based on the situation I was going to be in, right? So I had a gig for Kellogg's where it was I had to build an instrument made out of Pringles cans, where I've got got a video already online where I put Pringles cans around the like tops of the tubes and then kind of fake played in the Hall of the Mountain King. But for this gig, they were like, no, we want the whole thing to look like it's made out of Pringles cans. And it was an NDA, so I can't really show any pictures, but maybe I can send one to you later. But we basically built this transportable ABS pipe set that we flew over and then put the cans like all around it. So it was like a decorated still, but it was made to look like it was all made of Pringles cans. But the challenge was we had to make it fit within 3 suitcases because that was the max allowance on a United flight. Was like you can only have up to 3 extra suitcases. And they're all 52 pounds each. And so to be able to have all the pipes, the gear, the like actual instrument frame itself, and then all the Pringles cans that were emptied out. Like I needed to be able to make all that fit in 3 like airplane accessible luggage containers. So that was I think a physics challenge in the way of having to think about all these other factors at play of, oh, I needed to be able to roll on stage. I needed to be able to be compact enough to fit in a suitcase. I needed to be light enough to fit in the suitcase. And all the pipes need to be able to come apart and be rebuilt once we're in Miami to do the show. Wow. So it's like, I think it's like I'm not doing as much of like, oh, the speed of sound or any of that kind of crazy stuff. Maybe like when I pop up in an outdoor venue, trying to position myself against with a wall behind me helps with like the resonance going this way versus just all over. But otherwise, it's like a lot of guessing and checking and seeing what the circumstances are and working within those parameters.
That's what real life problem solving looks like. The guessing and figuring it out and what works for a specific situation. Awesome. Wonderful.
Or like going to India, right? And like finding out, it was like 24 hours in advance that was like confirmed that I was going there and my dad was joining me and like figuring out on the fly, okay, we're working with a new kind of pipe. We're working with what kind of couplings they have. And they accidentally brought the wrong size frame for us. Like we asked for like, originally it was like 4 foot 2 inches and they brought it as 2 feet 4 inches. And we're like, this is like, we literally can't build it. So please fix it. Okay. If it's 5 feet, that's fine. We'll just get a riser for me. But like working within those constraints, again, real life situation of we have a deadline of a show in 3 days and I don't have an instrument, let alone have any material for an Indian audience. But it's, that's part of the process.
That's awesome.
Going with the flow.
I love it. Okay. My lightning round here. I won't kind of cut you off. I just was giving you some ones that have some probably pretty short answers.
Totally.
About how long is the pipe that you use for your lowest note?
I meant to look this up and I just pulled up the thing. My guess is 12 feet for my low. It's an E1 on my like big instrument back home in Oregon, and 162 inches. So that would be 148 is 12 feet. No, yeah.
144. So that'd be about
144. And then another, 162 inches. So 14 feet, I guess is my longest pipe.
Wow.
It's all, it's all exponential, right? So like the shortest, tiniest little pipes are like half an inch difference. And then those ones are at least over a feet of difference in length.
Very cool. Second one, about how many PVC instruments or rimba tubes or ABS instruments have you made?
I think I've made 5. I've got one in Oregon. I've got this one down here. That was my second one. And then I have the transportable set. I built a miniature pipe set for a summer camp and like auctioned it off. It was like 1.5 inch pipe. And then that one in India. It was the 5th.
Awesome. What was your favorite venue to perform at?
I like to, it's cheesy, but my old house, we used to have house concerts every month before the pandemic, and we would have all these amazing musicians all across Los Angeles come in, and I think just that intimacy just felt like a really special, loving place.
That's awesome. Very cool.
Yeah.
Especially knowing that you've done a bunch of huge shows and big ones. And
I could say like Ellen show or like, there was a gig in San Diego for like 10,000 people. Like those are cool and so exciting and rewarding for different reasons. But that one's just like, that carries with you for the weeks to come.
Awesome. Next to the rimba tubes, what's your favorite instrument to play?
Piano. That was like my starting instrument, and I'm just getting more and more into it lately, especially in the pandemic. It was just to be able to like get like nerdy with like, oh, what can I, now that I have 10 fingers instead of 2 paddles, what's possible?
Awesome. This one's not on my list there, but when you mention your paddles, I originally described it as kind of like modified ping pong paddles. Have you ever tried to use a ping pong paddle?
The first impulse I had was actually using a mouse pad, and I remember that deteriorated like this. Like it was so quick. So it was a lot of experimenting. I don't think I've ever used ping pong paddles. A lot of people think they're spatulas, and then they'll use spatulas for their instrument. But anything that's just got that like harsh wood or plastic sound against plastic is just noise, in my opinion. So it's really crucial to have that foam element, like a flip-flop sandal, that like adds the cushion to be able to get a good, just more of that pure air sound.
And I know you sell your paddles on your website.
I do, yes.
Give it a little plug there.
I still always recommend people try building their own first, because everyone's instruments is so unique that like finding cheaper, more accessible, like my stuff that I use is bought in bulk and is like a lot more expensive with the closed self-fold rubber and then the corrugated plastic, the rods. It's just so many elements versus like you literally can use a flip-flop sandal. And I'm like, it's such a DIY instrument. It's like, why not DIY your own paddles too?
Excellent. Gave the plug anyway, but wonderful advice. Let's see, 2 more in the lightning round here. Have you ever considered incorporating fire into any of your performances or instruments?
It was a failed product, but we built a Rubens tube. My friend is an engineer, and she was able to build one of those. I was noticing that pipe in the background looks like a Rubens tube.
It used to be. It melted too frequently. I have a metal one. Hold on, I'll grab it right here.
Please.
This is what I was using. Well, I don't have the gas hookup right here, but this is the one I was using 2 classes ago in here.
Brilliant.
That would have. I mean, this is not too fancy. This is a balloon, a hose on that end, and then the speaker that goes into it looks like a 2-liter bottle of soda, but it's a subwoofer that then goes into the one end there.
Oh, excellent. Yes.
So yeah, Rubens tube. So that's part of what made me think of it. We were just doing that in class. And I'm wondering, like, is there a way that you incorporate that into what you're doing?
I did try, and it was weird because then the paddles were also just blowing out the fire. So it was just kind of like a weird, you didn't actually get to see the effect of the thing because it was like on top of my instrument. Yeah. Okay. Is somebody there?
Just cleaning some stuff here.
Okay.
But
question for you though, the Rubens tube. The Rubens tube, the length, have you experimented with different lengths of Rubens tubes, and has that made an effect on, because we found like certain pitches resonated better, but I assumed that was due to the length of the pipe.
Well, I end up using mine a little bit differently because with the physics of it, the wavelength of sound for different frequencies, it's going to take a significantly higher frequency to really show up well on any sort of smaller length of a Rubens tube. So I end up hooking mine up to the subwoofer, and then it's really the low notes that it's more the percussive bit of it. So like the whole flame will be reacting, the 100 and some little jets will be reacting to the percussive low notes, more showing a true wavelength like you would get at a higher frequency.
I see. Okay.
I almost wonder if there'd be a way where you could have like just one, not that it's going to show the perfect Rubens tube, like changing frequencies, but like with different blasts have fire coming out.
I would love dangerous. Like pyro effects, or confetti cannons, like at certain points. I think that'd be really cool.
Right.
We're actually you'll see it today. My friend was able to. I sent him a green screen video of me with these paddles that he was able to make look like they light up. And so I have a Star Wars video I'm releasing today that's got with these like basically light up paddles that look like lightsabers, and I'm really excited about it. It's awesome. All camera effects, but it's fun to have that visual element. Yeah.
If I think of anything as far as ways to incorporate something like that, I'll let you know.
Please do. Yeah.
It's all dangerous. I had something catch fire just Friday when I was working with mine there, and it
happens.
Anyway, my last week one here. You have your other stuff to get to.
Yes.
What song do you think you have the most fun playing? You look like you have fun playing just about anything.
I know. I try to sell all of them, but I really enjoy, there's a song called PVC4 by Blue Man Group. And it was like the first song that was like, this is the song. It's still my quote unquote favorite song. And I had the opportunity to play it on stage with Blue Man Group in New York City. And it's available on YouTube. And that was like one of my favorite performances ever. Speaking of like favorite venues, was like playing on the Blue Man stage, but playing that song with them especially because it starts off really nice and chill. You're really discovering the instrument and then gets really rocking by the end. But on the like, customer friendly side, Pirates of the Caribbean is always a good go-to favorite. I always love that one as well.
That's awesome. Ken, I appreciate your time. I know you have another appointment here, and I'm so glad that you were able to respond and give us some of the answers to this. If there's anything you ever need on the physics front, feel free to reach out.
Yes. Thank you, Jeff.
And thank you. It's been a great opportunity.
Yeah, no, it's an honor, especially because I'm, used to just putting my content out there and not, like people leave a comment or hit a like button, but able to like have that response of like, oh wow, this is having an impact on teachers and students. It's always heartwarming to see that.
Well, thank you. I'm going to hit the end recording here real quick.